Hello and welcome to the Empowered Expat Wife podcast. If you moved abroad following your significant other and are looking to create a fulfilled life on your terms there, this is the place to be. I'm your host, Camila Quintana, and I'm so excited to be on this journey with you and to inspire you to create the kind of life abroad you truly deserve. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed something strange in yourself and in others upon moving abroad, especially in the first few months? Or have you developed some kind of pattern throughout your multiple international moves that could be traced back to the fact that you have moved? Like weight fluctuation, an unconscious sort of compulsiveness to please others as you're trying so hard to make new friends and be met with smiley, friendly faces. Or perhaps moving has had the opposite effect on you and you developed a bit of a shell and a bit of a you don't need me, well, I don't need you either attitude. Another thing you may have noticed are certain patterns in your marriage or relationship. Whatever it is, today we're going to talk about some interesting expat phenomena that I've come across. But first, let me tell you that if you're in need of a little love, support, and confidence on your expat journey, download my free 10-minute nurture boost at www.camilaquintana.com. You'll see it right on top of the page, and you'll get a video, an audio, and a workbook for best results. All it takes is a couple of clicks and 10 minutes of your time to notice big shifts. So go ahead, hop over to my website and start nurturing yourself. Back to the show. So I've noticed some interesting things in myself and in others. And you know me, when I'm not coaching others, I'm coaching myself. And I've developed this great curiosity about what's going on in my thoughts, in my mind, why I do what I do, why I don't do what I don't do. It's a fascinating world. So starting to understand yourself and your motives and your triggers gives you a level of control and power over yourself and over your life. And especially as expat wives, we often feel that we lack those, right? But really, we can get into the driver's seat of our lives, even though we may not choose where we're headed, geographically. But we can definitely choose how we're going to travel there and how we're going to be there. So let's talk about weight. I know it's an uncomfortable conversation for so many women. And I'm curious and I would love to see your face right now and have a real conversation with you about this. Did you put on weight when you moved abroad? Or did you lose some, maybe? And if you did you go back to normal after some time? Or are you carrying some extra pounds with you ever since? Now, I'm no weight coach. I've never coached anyone on weight, but I am familiar with weight fluctuation. And even more familiar with these fluctuations happening as a result of relocating. And I thought, for many it is an uncomfortable conversation, so I'm just gonna put myself out there and give you a quick overview of what this has been like for me, right? What my journey has been like, because I want to highlight that there are so many different reasons that we may put on or lose weight, several of which I've experienced, but then there are also many others that I did not experience. And I think it's so important to draw attention to this myriad of reasons because, like I said, understanding yourself and your motivation behind what you do is the most important step to taking control and to changing it. All right? So with me, the first time it happened was when I went to university in the UK. I spent 3 years there. I ate lots of pizzas and other fast food that students eat, right? But most importantly, I was exposed to a different beauty standard. And I'm not saying this is specific to the UK, rather It was specific to the group of people I hung out with, where it was actually desirable to be more curvy, and I was not used to that. That kind of gave me a free pass to eat and not worry about putting on weight, which is what me and my girlfriends back home had done throughout our entire teenage years. Then, when I moved to Madrid, I lost weight. Gradually and effortlessly, I'd say. I had a different lifestyle. I ate much more healthy food. I walked more. I was really into fashion, so now I had different role models. And my 2 years there, working and getting my MBA, ended with me feeling very depressed, as I did not know what to do with my life. Whether to stay, whether to go, what to work as, what to do with my life. I felt really lost. And when I'm not well, I don't eat. So I lost weight. Now, with my latest move again, I put on weight. And I think that having 2 small children, they were 2 and 3 at the time, eating and treating myself to a snack was a way for me to take a little break, take a breather, do something for myself that would bring me some joy and change my state, because that's what food can achieve. It can change your state, for instance, from stressed to more relaxed. And I guess it kind of seemed valid, taking a few minutes to eat something, to nourish yourself, seemingly at least. It feels kind of legit, even as a busy mom. And then also, we lived on top of the place with the best tortilla de patatas, which is the Spanish egg and potato omelet. So I treated myself to that on an almost daily basis too, kind of like a reward for everything I was doing otherwise. I had taken care of the kids, solo parenting a lot, working, training, adapting myself and the whole family to this new environment. So long story short, I gradually put on weight in the first year of my latest move. And then it culminated last year after my missed miscarriage that left me really bloated. Then immediately afterwards, the beginning of lockdown, where baking was one of our favorite go-to pastimes. And of course, then also my last pregnancy. So at the point of this recording, I've actually successfully and sustainably shed 15 kilos, which is like 30 pounds in a time frame of less than 4 months. And if you want to know how I did it, feel free to email me. But this is what really piqued my interest in the phenomenon of weight fluctuations as a result of relocating. And I haven't coached anyone on weight loss, but I do talk to other expats a lot, and I know I'm not alone in this experience at all, which is so surprising that I haven't really seen this being talked about. So it's important that we do, and that is what we're going to do in this episode. And what I want to tell you in this regard is to really take some time and take a very close look as to why you're putting on or losing weight. Granted that you are not entirely happy with it, right? Because, unfortunately, when we Google weight loss, for instance, or we speak to someone, what we often get are very simplified and generic versions of what's going on. So these explanations that you might get won't help you because they won't resonate with you. They are way too generic. And this is one of my key takeaways from my 4-year-long journey as a coach, is to never fall for generic advice, right? Sure, there are some concepts that work for many, but they will not work with everyone. There are diets that work for some, but not for others, and we all know that. Otherwise magazines would not even sell, because today they're selling this diet, and in the next issue they're selling another one. There are so many out there, but not every diet is the perfect fit for every person. And the same goes for everything, basically, right? So before believing anyone's advice on anything, please take this time to check in with yourself and your inner knowing that's there. It just needs a lot of attention and curiosity to reveal itself. So, what are possible reasons for weight fluctuations upon moving? You may be simply eating a different kind of cuisine that your body isn't used to, and that may make you lose or gain weight. You may be exposed to different physiques that normalize being thinner or fuller than you are or than what you were used to in your home country or in your previous country. You may be someone who eats to soothe yourself when you're stressed or sad or depressed. Or otherwise, you may be someone who deprives yourself of food in these moments. You may be a joy and reward eater. I'm guilty of that. Let's celebrate with a special treat, shall we? Or you may forget about eating in these joyful, cheerful times. You may eat out of boredom because it gives you something to do in an otherwise monotone day. You may eat your children's leftovers because you were told to always eat up. I know so many moms do that. Or you're so stressed as a parent that you even forget about eating. What is it for you? Can you tell? And if not, I invite you to really look at what's going on. There's no need to be afraid to look. As a matter of fact, it's way more uncomfortable not knowing than knowing. Really, what you understand loses its mystery and its power over you, so it's always worth it. Like I said before, awareness is the first and the most important step towards change. And if you're wondering what the next step is, well, unless you feel called to make a drastic change in your diet or in your relationship to food, I would say it's baby steps. Baby steps always deliver results. Maybe not right away, but steadily and reliably and quite effortlessly. And one more thing, what you need before any change can occur, and especially when it's with weight loss, is to take a one-time firm decision. Because if you're going to argue with yourself daily about whether or not to have that cookie or to have another serving, you've already lost, right? You need to be really committed to your decision, because if you're not, you're probably not going to see it through. And then you'll mistakenly think, oh, I've tried so much and nothing worked. But really, you did not, because you did not take this one-time firm decision and saw it through. And that's why it's better, way better, to fully commit to taking baby steps than to think that you can do some kind of quantum leap that will actually be too difficult, too drastic, and too much to firmly commit to. Okay, so I'm curious, have you gained or dropped weight abroad? And if so, why do you think that is? If you feel like it, please email me at info@camillaquintana.com and let me know. I'm authentically interested in hearing your story and exchanging our stories with each other. Okay, phenomenon 2 that I've noticed is people pleasing. I've experienced this myself, and many of my expat friends have too. Because when you move to another country, you're so dependent on other people's help and kindness in a way, right? You have no friends, you have no contacts, or very few. And so you're always in this position of the seeker. You look for friendly faces. You look for another mom at the playground to lock eyes with, to have a little small talk about your children that will really make your day, right? All these little gestures that you get by others, gestures of kindness, they can make your day, especially if you've just recently moved. And so you are so thankful to the friendly waiter that patiently explains the menu in another language, or that makes this effort to understand you as you're trying to order, or to the store clerk that speaks slowly or maybe English with you, hallelujah. And also to that neighbor who greets you and asks you how you're doing, even though it's just a phrase and not real interest, but still. In my case, I feel like I've started over so many times. Even within the same country, I changed environments, like I changed houses and universities and work. So there have been many fresh starts, and I know most of you can relate to that. And it's left me in a constant, I'm going to say it harshly just to be able to visualize it better, right? It's left me in a state of constant tension to be liked in order to be safe. To a point where it's gotten unclear to me how much of this behavior was actually mine, like my personality, because I am someone who's rather diplomatic. I'm naturally pretty open-minded. My motto has always been live and let live. So I'm not someone who's polemic and provocative. So there is a part of that is actually mine and that feels good. But nevertheless, I also know that there's a part of me that's been holding back. I've been trying really hard to make and maintain friends and allies abroad. And I love my friends, but what I'm realizing is that I don't always need to be the one making the first step and so many efforts. I don't need to always jump for their needs, but I've kind of been doing that, and sometimes it's reciprocal, which is great, but other times it can leave you feel a little drained. So my question is, have you experienced that too? And if so, let me tell you, it is a process of discerning, like I said, what is yours, what's part of your personality, what feels good to you essentially, and what's an unhealthy pattern you've adopted like a protection mechanism. And one way I like to do this, to do this process of discerning is by bringing my body compass into the game. Start paying attention when an interaction feels a bit tensed, when you feel a sense of contraction, some kind of uncomfortable urgency, like I need to do this now. Or when an interaction leaves you feeling more drained than energized. Another indicator is your throat. And this is actually how I found out about this as a pattern. Your throat chakra is associated to your ability to speak your inner truth. So when you don't, you may experience physical symptoms like a throat infection. I really believe in the mind-body connection, and that's something I've noticed. If I fall sick, it's always my throat. That's my weak spot. And it will take some reassurance from yourself that you are indeed safe to speak your truth. Like a mantra, right? I've often told myself, just in my own head, right? You don't even need to say this out loud, but just tell yourself, remind yourself, it's safe for me to speak my truth. Even if you choose only to say it to yourself and not to others. Because there are moments that might call for that, right? You don't need to be blunt in everyone's face and in everyone's ears to make yourself heard. It's not about that. It's about knowing what you think about a situation, knowing what feels good to you, knowing what your inner truth is. And I think, checking in with your body is a really good way to start. And it's kind of a soft way to free yourself from this need to please others. So have you noticed that you do a lot of people pleasing? And if so, can you trace back its origins to moving abroad or to relocating frequently and starting over several times? Or have you maybe noticed the opposite phenomenon, where you've been left to rely on yourself so much that now you're kind of shying away from needing others, from asking for help, where you're not on a constant lookout to make friends, where you may even make it hard for people abroad to get to know you and get close to you? That too can be a protection mechanism. And it's important to look at that with curiosity, with self-compassion always, and bring these patterns to your awareness and your consciousness. And then another topic I just quickly wanted to mention is shifts in your relationship. Again, shifts that you can trace back to moving abroad. In a previous episode, Nicole Webb put it so beautifully by saying, expat life is wonderful at both hiding or magnifying relationship flaws. Is that something you've noticed in your relationship? What patterns do you notice that have occurred as a consequence of moving? So some things I've heard frequently from clients were depending more on each other and thus taking care of each other more. Being away from previous triggers that you were exposed to back home, like maybe intrusive family members, or the constant comparison to, other husbands, like your husband's friends and how they did things, or other wives, your girlfriends and how they did things. Or just being away from a culture that sets certain rules that don't actually serve you as a couple. So that could all be signs of relief on the relationship. But I've also heard my expat wife clients tell me things like moving abroad made them feel resentful towards their spouse to be able to continue their career while they, the wives in that case, had to give theirs up. Or towards their spouse for being away so much at work and traveling, leaving them to handle life and the kids all on their own. Or for their spouse to make all the money. What has it been like in your relationship? I invite you to reflect and to remember two key lessons, two key pieces of advice that I want to leave you with today. If you are going through any of these expat phenomenons or any other, right? Which is number one, awareness is key. Awareness is power. Put your detective's hat on and get really curious about what's going on inside of you. What thoughts are you having about a situation? What do your feelings tell you about it? Remember in my last episode, I mentioned that our feelings, no matter how unpleasant they are really here to guide us, to send us a message of what's going on that we could otherwise not grasp rationally. And also, how do you react when you think what you think and you feel what you feel? What does that lead you to do or to not do? Get really curious. And if you need help with this, because I know that doing this for yourself is very tricky. There will always be some blind spots that you don't notice. And we all need a sounding board, myself included. And a good coach provides just that. So if you would like some help in this department, in this process of gaining more awareness and making and really achieving some big changes in your life, then feel free to book a complimentary consultation with me via my website, camillaquintana.com, and let's talk about how I can help you get there. And then advice number 2 or lesson number 2 of this episode is to really use your body as a compass. Our body tells us so much. It may require some practice, but when you've gained it, it will become your most valuable source of guidance, where you can actually check in with your body to see, does this feel good to me? Is this an authentic expression of what I am about? Is this the right choice to make, the right decision to take? And the way you do that is start noticing when you feel like you are contracting, right? You get this sense of tension and of contraction. And whenever you notice that, your body is telling you, no, this is not the way, right? But whenever you get a sense of physical relief, right? So I notice, for instance, that my shoulders drop and I inhale more deeply and more freely. And I feel a sense of expansion, of spaciousness inside of me. That's when your body is telling you, yes, this is the way to go. This is the way to be. This is authentically where you should be and what you should do. So these were a few of these strange but interesting expat phenomenons that I've encountered, and I would love to know, have you encountered them too, or which other things have you noticed? Let me know, because this episode might very well get a part 2 of other strange but interesting expat phenomena. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you as my listener, and I can't wait to be back with you next week. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to share this episode with your expat besties and show me some love in the reviews. Want more juicy content designed for expat wives? Then head over to my website, www.camillaquintana.com, or follow me on Instagram and Facebook at coach.camillaquintana.